Why do Americans tip even when the service is terrible? Why do we feel guilty not leaving extra money after we've already paid? And what's really going on in our brains when we see that little iPad spin around and ask for 25%? Today, we're diving into the surprising psychology behind tipping in America. Spoiler, it's not just about being polite. There's some deep social wiring behind it. Let's rewind a second. Tipping didn't actually start in America. It began in medieval Europe, where rich folks gave coins to servants to ensure promptitude. Yep, that's where tip supposedly comes from. In the US, tipping became popular after the Civil War. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Some argue tipping was used to justify not paying newly freed slaves fair wages. Employers would say, "Don't worry, you'll earn tips." So, tipping in America? Yeah, it's got complicated roots. And today, it's baked into how we treat restaurants, bars, hair salons, even coffee shops. But why is it so emotionally charged? Let's talk psychology. Ever heard of reciprocity bias? It's a deeply wired rule in our brains. When someone does something for us, we feel a strong urge to give something back. So when your server brings your food with a smile, checks in just the right amount of times, and remembers your extra ranch, you feel like you owe them. Even if it's their job, your brain sees it as a personal favor. This is emotional tipping. We tip to reduce guilt and reinforce good behavior. But even bad service doesn't always stop us from tipping. Why? Because of something called social pressure. Americans are deeply influenced by impression management. We want to look generous, even to total strangers. Have you ever tipped just because your friend or date was watching, or because you didn't want the barista to think you were cheap? That's not generosity. That's reputation defense. Now add technology to the mix. You've got digital tip screens spinning around in front of the cashier. And now you're tipping on stage. It's performance tipping. And that pressure, it actually makes people leave bigger tips than they would in private. It's not about money. It's about avoiding awkwardness. Here's a fun fact. In Japan, tipping is considered rude. Leave money on the table, and they might chase you down to return it. In Europe, tipping is minimal. It's just rounding up the bill. So why is the US so different? Because in America, many service workers are paid less than minimum wage, sometimes as low as $2.13 an hour. The assumption? Tips will make up the rest. So tipping here? It isn't a bonus, it's survival. This creates a strange power dynamic. Customers aren't just rewarding service, they're deciding how much someone earns. No wonder tipping feels so loaded. Ever feel like tipping is everywhere now? Tip jars at takeout counters. Suggested tips on checkout screens. 30% options for handing you a coffee. Welcome to Tip Creep, the quiet expansion of tipping into places we never tipped before. What's going on? Businesses are shifting labor costs onto you, and with digital systems, it's super easy. Just press a button, and poof, guilt gone. But most of us don't stop to think. We just tip out of habit, or pressure, or because we're afraid of being seen as cheap. Here's the paradox. Americans often say they hate tipping. It's confusing, inconsistent, stressful, but we still do it. Why? Because we've linked tipping to morality. A good tip means you're a good person. A bad tip, you're a cheapskate. Studies even show that people tip more when they feel wealthy or powerful. It's a subtle status signal, like saying, "Look, I can afford to be generous." And get this. Even when service is automated, like food delivery apps, people still tip. Why? Because that leave a tip screen feels like a moral test. So now that you know all this, should you still tip? Honestly, that's up to you. But here's the big takeaway. Tipping in America isn't just about food or service. It's about culture, psychology, and economics, all rolled into one awkward little line at the bottom of your receipt. Understanding the psychology behind tipping doesn't mean you have to change your habits, but next time that iPad flips around and your heart skips a beat, you'll know why. Because tipping in America isn't just an action. It's a social ritual, one we perform over and over without even thinking. If you learned something new today, give this video a thumbs up. And maybe send it to that one friend who tips 10% and says, "Relax, it's just optional." Subscribe for more breakdowns of psychology, culture, and all the weird stuff in between. See you next time.